I was on mute. There we go. How you doing, mate? You all right?
Doing good. How are you?
Yes, good. Very good, man. Very
Fantastic.
good. Looks like Lee's here, but maybe he's having some. There he
Ah,
is.
it
Hey,
just said about the meeting being recorded, and it was just like you have to press OK for it to come on. Hey, how's it going?
hey Lee, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Keith? You all right?
I'm doing well, thank you. So how are you guys doing today?
All right.
Yeah.
Early.
Fantastic.
Uh, I've already been up and at it, so
Cool, guys,
I
cool.
have not. I
So,
ran the dog out. That's it.
so guys, your debut album, Freaking Out, is to be out on May 31st. So would you like to tell me a bit about the songwriting and the production that goes behind this new album?
kick us off,
You
Lee.
start, Luke.
All right,
Okay, I'll
cool.
go.
Basically, this album has actually been in the can for a couple of years for various reasons. It was recorded in the pandemic, which at the time we kind of connected with the producer Adrian Bushby, and he showed interest in working with us, and we wanted to take the opportunity. He's done a lot of legendary records, so we we kind of figured out how to make that happen, right? We didn't have a label at the time, so we just funded it all ourselves. Ended up recording a record in the UK in the middle of the pandemic, sort of in a lockdown, right? So it's, I live in Arizona, Lee lives in California, rest of the band lives in California. So we're all trying to get into England to record an album over there. And so, when we finally figured out the logistics, it just happened to sort of slot into a place where you could go and visit England, but you had to stay wherever you were going for 2 weeks. You couldn't leave the place that you were going for 2 weeks. So we were like, cool, let's just lock ourselves up in the studio for 2 weeks and not leave and focus on the record. And, it ended up kind of being beneficial, really. The only distraction was, England going to the Euros and going to the finals, which we would take breaks to watch the games. So it was cool. I mean, that was kind of like where the recording process started. Writing, we're always constantly writing. So, there wasn't thematically, there wasn't kind of like a, hey, this is going to be the album, right? We actually decided to do something we've never done before, which was just ask Adrian, what do you think makes a cohesive record, right? Listen to these demos, right? And so he actually picked out what he thought made a cohesive record. And so we basically went with that. And then we ended up throwing a couple of things that we wanted in there at a late date. And then
We finished early.
we did finish early. Yeah, we got done real quick and we had extra time, so we used it. And then in terms of like releasing, it's been a couple years where it's been in the can, it's been mixed and ready to go, but we were trying to find like a release partner that made sense. We had a couple missed starts, and then finally our mate Dan, who has been a big supporter of the band since day one, he sort of teamed up with Spine Farm and works for them, and he was just like, I've always wanted to work with you guys, let's figure something out. And so we did, and here we are. Honestly, I don't think we could have found a better fit for a release partner. So that kind of brings us to where we're at.
Fantastic, fantastic. And does Freaking Out has a storyline, a theme, or a concept that goes behind it?
Lee.
Not really, no. It would be cool. It's just a general, the time of our lives at that point. We were all freaking out about what the hell we were going to do, freaking out about pandemic, freaking out about how we were going to survive being a band, because I mean, even after the pandemic, it was like a drip down thing to all the other new bands, because all the shows that were in the pandemic were all being rebooked at a later date. So it's just like, are we ever going to be able to get shows again? It's just generally about our lives freaking out. It kind of fit. We had a few titles for the record, and then we were just like, that kind of just fits with our general lives right now.
It's also like unintentionally, it's not like unthemed, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
We didn't intentionally go in there and be like, man, we need to like create a record about this, and like this is the underlying theme. But when you dig in lyrically, there's a lot of like what I describe anxiety in the record, right? Like, and I think that was unintentional, but you know, if it's part of your subconscious, arguably it's going to come out in your art. You know what I mean? When you're trying to, you know, express yourself, and whatever those feelings are likely going to get captured when you're making a record. So I think unintentionally, the record is anxiety ridden.
Yes.
Sounds good. Sounds good. And speaking of the album, 10 mind-blowing songs, great
Thanks.
rocking track. You guys put a blend of 80s and 90s, come together with sounds really outstanding. A great work from you guys. I love the songwriting process.
Thanks, Keith. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
The musicianship, it's totally rocking. The entire album, as a whole album, I would say it's totally rocking. So I want to thank you guys so much for putting up this amazing record this year. And as a band, as a creator, what are your thoughts on this album, and how do you guys feel about the outcome?
I think like the ethos of the band is like, you'll notice there's no, like, the only thing that is on that record that is not played by us is a cello on Vertigo, right? The ethos of the band is like, we've always, you know, been very much like guitar, bass, drums, vocals, right? We want to be like just a real rock band with no sort of like anti-technology almost. I'm sure at some point that's going to bite us in the rear end, because we're going to want to expand on the color palette that we use. But right now, like, nothing that we've ever created has had anything other than those elements. You know, and when we made this band, like, we were talking about, both me and Lee, we were talking about this Foo Fighters video, Foo Fighters 1995, they headlined Brixton Academy, and the energy and like the vibe and just everything that comes out of like that performance, we were just like, that is like, in a nutshell, the ethos of this band, right? Like, if you Google Foo Fighters 1995 Brixton Academy, it's like, we wanted to just be raw, real, like, you know, visceral, like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, fantastic, fantastic. And two videos out so far, Liar and Loser. So great songs and great videos. And do you guys like to talk a bit about the making of this video?
Well, we have Freaking Out, which is a part of it too. So Loser is its own video, but we actually had, it sounds very pretentious now to call it a trilogy, but we have 3 songs. We have a new song coming out this week on Thursday, called You Don't Care. That's the final video of the 3 videos. We had our friend Adam Mason, who we knew, like, he did our first ever video, Burn Forever. He's a fellow Brit living in America. We just went to him and was just like, do you want to do a video? And he was like, yeah, okay. And he was like, well, I've kind of got working on this short story of this guy called Cyrus Arnold, who's like this young actor out here. He's in like Zoolander 2, and he's the funniest man alive. Like, so he was like, I have this script, do you want to make it into a short, kind of like a short film kind of thing, and we'll space it out over 3 videos. So yeah, we have the final part of that video will be out this week. But making that video was a hell of a lot of fun, because the kid just, like, Cyrus he just ad-libs everything. He's like comedy genius. Like, we didn't see a script of what he was saying or anything. We had all these extras in, and it was impossible to keep a straight face with him. He's so funny, man. And then the Loser video we did with our friend Adam Stone, who actually grew up with our guitar player Jaxon in Texas. And he's like incredible video director. So we just drove out to Texas. We started at like 8 a.m. We did till 1 p.m. and then we just turned around and drove straight the way back again. So, but that video was really cool. It was in a motel in the middle of nowhere, and the motel actually had people staying in it, which was insane. We were shooting a really loud music video whilst there was guests staying in the motel. Yeah, and then we turned around and we came straight back home again. It was a fun, what was that, like 3 days?
Oh, mate, it was the longest drive. Just to clarify, it wasn't start at 1 p.m. at 8 a.m. and get there at 1 p.m. because he was driving from California. He was talking about the video shoot. We drove like a whole day to get there, shot on the same day, drove back, and then like split the drive over 2 days. But the hotel, or the motel, should I say, they let us shoot there for free. It was so weird. I don't know why. Like they didn't want money. They were just like, "Oh, cool, come in." But man, it was like it was the quintessential horror movie motel. It was like, yeah, and I feel like if the poor person that owns the motel's watching this, I'm sorry, but it was exactly how you'd imagine like a motel to be in like Texas Chainsaw Massacre or something. I was like, wow, and we were in Texas, you know. But yeah, it was real cool. And the trilogy, you know, it's something that like when you're a band like us and you don't have like an infinite budget, right? And music videos, they don't make a splash like they used to, right? Like you've got to get creative and ultimately doing this, like not only to work with Adam Mason again, because he did our first video, and we love him. He's also a Brit. Like the humor is very locked in with us, right? So to not only work with Adam again, you know, but for him to bring in some of his talented friends and trust like what we were doing was serious enough to bring in some of these folks, you know, was phenomenal. And so yeah, freaking out sometimes gets missed because we self-released Freaking Out as the first song on the record before the deal was done. So yeah, like sometimes I think people miss it, but on YouTube it will be a running trilogy. So, you know, hopefully people will, because if you just take the second video, you're kind of like, wow, what's going on here?
Yeah.
But yes, the finale comes out tomorrow. So we have another single dropping tomorrow for You Don't Care. And yeah, the finale for the Helvis trilogy is coming.
Beautiful. And being the debut album for you guys and the long-awaited album, do you guys have some special plans for the release?
So in actual fact, the album is in essence not our first album, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like our fake first album or our fake second album. We had a whole album written, and then when the pandemic struck, we were just like, it doesn't make no sense to just drop an album and then like be done with it, right? So we ended up breaking up the album and drip feeding it out. And so it is like officially our first album, but I feel like we have another album of songs out there. I think for the amount of time and the amount of comments that we've had between then and trying to get this album out is you know, it's nuts. Every day there would be somebody being like, when's the album dropping? Like, are you guys ever gonna release an album? And I think you start to feel guilty. So I'm glad that it's coming, but I don't think we have anything like special planned. There isn't like, you know, there isn't any kind of like crazy touring plans. I mean, we're going over to the UK to play Download. That'll be right just after the record comes out, and so we're gonna have some shows around that. But yeah, we're basically focusing on sort of just talking to our audience and telling them that it won't be so long till the next album comes out, which is already underway being written.
And why the name Lowlives?
Oh man, that's Lee. It was like basically we couldn't decide on a name. Like when we made this band, we didn't know what
Hundreds of
level, yeah, what level of band it was going to be. You know, and I think that we were kind of toying with a lot of ideas. There was a couple of notes with lists of names, and to be honest, yeah, everything that I liked, Lee didn't like, and everything that Lee liked, I didn't like. And the only thing we both were kind of like, yeah, it's all right, is Lowlives, which is a highly disappointing statement. But
Yeah.
but as we kind of marinated on the idea of Lowlives, right? We always wanted to have a logo that would like make sense for us, right? And so both of us being heavily tattooed, we're kind of, you know, obsessed with the old school hobo code. I'm not sure if you're familiar with hobo code, but or in America, I think they might even call it train riders code, like
Yeah.
basically like vagrants, travelers, right? They used to have these symbols, like it's a huge kind of like directory of symbols that mean certain things. And so I'm trying to see if I got a sickle anywhere in here. You got anything with a sickle on, Lee?
Trying to think what have I got.
Basically, the Lowlives logo is kind of like this sickle with a cross on the side. And what it means is not to be trusted, like it's an untrustworthy man. So like vagrants or like, you know, hobos, if they stayed somewhere where they got like robbed or the person tried to exploit them, they'd carve on the outside of the house like this sign or mark it somewhere, right? And actually, like, there's multiple like usages, multiple different things. And so for us, it kind of, we loved that logo. In fact, what am I on about? I've got it tattooed on me.
Got it on your hand, yeah.
Yeah, I've got it
I
on
was
my
going to
hand.
bust out my ear, but
This has dropped out a bit, but that's kind of like the logo, right? Um, and so yeah, it basically means untrustworthy, dishonest, not to be trusted, right? And it fits so well with Lowlives. We were just kind of like, this all kind of makes sense, you know? And so that's kind of how it all like tied in together. And then all of a sudden out of the blue, you know, like kids, like we're a small band, right? Kids would just tag us in these posts and they would have this logo tattooed on them. And we're like, what? Like, that's insane, you know? And I think we got about 8 or 9 low life sickle tattoos now. Like, it's not including ours. I mean, we all ended up going and getting them the last time we were in the UK. My mate did some for us because we were just like, man, all these kids have got low life tattoos and we don't even have them ourselves. So we all went and got the sickle tattooed on us.
I wish we could just have the sickle as our name, like Prince. But
oh man, that would be pretty tight.
That'd be cool, right? What's the name of that band? You know, the one with the weird...
formerly known as Lowlives.
Yeah, let's do it.
Fantastic. So, what would be the big dream as a band?
The big dream?
Yeah.
Oh, go on, Lee.
Play with Foo Fighters.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah. I think like if we ever got to play shows with Foo Fighters, like Alice in Chains, Smashing Pumpkins, any of those, like, you know, Foo Fighters would be our number one. I mean, like, being that the band is largely like based off that show. I think also, I don't even know if Brixton's open back up, but if Brixton is open back up, like ever being able to headline Brixton,
yeah,
would be absolutely phenomenal. Because I mean, it would just be full circle, really, like with the what kind of incentivized us and kind of targeted what we wanted to be as a band. You know, that would be sick. But I'll be honest with you, man, just to have people connect with the music is like bucket list. You know, these kids that are getting tattoos and some of the messages we receive, you know, we have some folks come and see us. The last time we played in San Diego, we met these folks that basically, you know, they drove so far to see us, and I was like, whoa, that's crazy. Like, you know, considering we're a small band, and at that point we weren't signed, we're a DIY band, you know. And then hearing like them speak about our music, about how it changed their life, you know, that's never going to get old, and it's never going to be insignificant. You know what I mean? Like when someone tells you that about how much of an effect it had on their life, like I find it hard to understand how that's possible, because it's like us that wrote it. I know that sounds like negative, but like, you know, if it really is true, like I think about how Smashing Pumpkins or Radiohead or The Clash, those bands like really changed my life, you know. And so, you know, it's an honor to get comments and statements like that, you know what I mean? It's total bucket list.
Fantastic. And would you guys like to share some of the highlight moments of the band so far?
Oh,
highlight moment. Reading Festival was a big tick for me. Being someone that used to go to Reading Festival, my dad used to take me as a kid. Yeah. In my old band, we played all the other festivals, never got to play Reading. So when we started this band, it was like, now's the time. And then we got booked for that. That was a big one for me personally. What about you, Luke?
Yeah, Reading will never get old. Being booked on Download this year is pretty mind-blowing for me. I've been
Have you done Download before?
Once in a band that really shouldn't have been on Download.
Okay.
We were playing like the smallest stage, like second on, and a band on the main stage dropped out. And what was relayed to me via our booking agent at that time was that the owner of Download really liked our band and wanted to put us in that slot. So basically, Finger 11 had dropped out off the main stage. I
remember
wanted
that.
to put us in that slot. And I said to our booking agent, I don't think we should do that. I was very fearful that we would have stuff thrown and pelted at us since we weren't rock enough, you know. And he said, I've gone ahead and accepted for you because I knew you'd say this. So we did it. And basically we played, I think 5 from top on the main stage. And this is a band that no one had ever heard of that wasn't heavy like metal or rock. And so it was pretty terrifying, but it was awesome. So I'm glad to go back in a nice heavy band and play download and do it properly. And so I'm really excited about that. But we also just booked 2 really big US festivals that were, I mean, we can't even believe that we're getting the opportunity to do it. You know, we're doing Louder Than Life and Aftershock. And so, you know, to be on those bills, especially with Slayer coming back and you know, being on those festivals, it's going to be pretty phenomenal. So, yeah.
Awesome. And guys, finally, any message that you have for the fans around the world?
We're sorry for taking so long to do a record.
The next one won't be as long, but
It's not
seriously,
laziness. Trust me, we were not
it's not.
lazy.
It's not for the lack of trying.
Yeah.
Yeah. People don't understand what happens behind the curtain sometimes, you know. There's obviously like business and politics that happens, right? And so, you know, we could have easily put this album out a year and a half ago on our own, and it just no one ever heard it, right? So partnering with the right people was the right move. But honestly, like the continued support, the fact that those people have stuck with us and trusted us, and to anyone new coming in, you know, like thanks for checking us out, right? Like I hope you stick with us for the ride because, you know, I think that you're gonna love the album, and I think that you're gonna love future stuff too. I think we got the formula locked.
Yeah.
Hey, fantastic. And Luke and Lee, I want to thank you both so much for giving me today this wonderful opportunity to have you guys on the show. And thanks so much for freaking out. A fantastic album from you. Totally love
Thanks
it.
for having us. Thanks for having us, Keith.
Having
Honestly,
us.
it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to come on here and have this conversation with you. So I hope we can do it again in the future.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you so much. And you have a good day ahead and take care of yourself.
You too, man.
Take care,
Take
Keith,
care.
mate.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
See ya. Bye.